discriminated against, but it's women discriminating themselves.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that they are not having the attitude of a go-getter, and then they don't equip themselves with what it takes for them to be, as both of you have said, for them to have the merit, but at the same time, when they have the merit, to go out there and compete with those men, as he said, to be able to be on the list of those people who are proposing their services and their skills is what we are lacking. So here we have a call for action for all women to prepare themselves for the change that is happening in the world.
Sorry, I think they're equipped. I just think that there is a fear or a doubt that they'll be chosen because, like, society has been biased for so long that sometimes when you see these things, you're like, oh, some guy is going to get this. So just that work hard to push away that fear and that doubt, and I won't be selected.
Yeah. So not holding oneself back because of like a prejudice that maybe does not even have solid grounding.
Yeah, it's very competitive out there, so you have to compete. You know, you're not competing just with other women, you're competing with everybody. And so sometimes you have to think like a man. That's what, you know, you do. But we're competing. It's a competitive world, it's a competitive landscape.
Hopefully the message is heard. Okay, so I would like to jump back on something you mentioned earlier. It's about the region we are living in, this African region wherein we have this shiny sun every single day. But we still have these energy-related issues. So how can we foster that culture also of having those solar system solutions that stem from our own populations? How can we have more of clean energy?
Well, so unfortunately, it's a technical assistance facility, so I'm not actually, you know, making the technology, but you find that there are a lot of companies, and most of the products now are being made out of China, right? But a lot of governments, African governments, are also now pushing for manufacturing to be done within their countries. I mean, we all know the glowing stories coming from Rwanda, right? Rwanda is really leading the way in terms of embracing technology and embracing new ways of doing things and just, you know, breaking down barriers. Right, and we all know the history that Rwanda, you know, went through. We had similar histories. I'm sure theirs was even worse. You know, with the genocide, we had a war, and we both came out of the dark. But unfortunately, we're still in the dark, right? Because we're not, you know, advancing or we're not embracing certain things. So I think with the solar systems, there are companies that the technology keeps getting better and better. And I think maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago when you hear solar, it's really, really expensive, right? But now, because the technology keeps getting better, you can get a solar home system which has 4 lights and a charging port where you could charge your mobile phone for about $200. Yes, that's 2 million leones. It's still a lot for our rural communities, but companies are also being innovative with pay-as-you-go platforms where you allow people to pay for the system for a period of 2 years. So we're working with government to figure out also how some of these companies, we can push them to the farther areas so that the companies are just not staying in Freetown or staying in the peri-urban communities, that they're going really where the people need electricity. But for our young people, find out about solar, find out how you can also do innovations on the technology that it is now. How can we have something that's adapted to our local terrain, right? So it's not because now solar systems have advanced that caps it, right? You can still create and make different innovations.
Right. You like that?
Energy?
No. No, if you would.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we will, with our transition, jump to the next issue, which is, you know, the misguided notion that most of us have, that Africa cannot bridge the gap, that technological gap that we have. like the technological gap that exists between us and the more advanced countries. Most of the people you talk to are always like, oh my God, they are so far beyond, you know. So you mentioned having leapfrogs for us to reach that stage. But my question is, what do we lack when we have the people who are able to do it? We also have, as you mentioned, the, let's say, the collective intelligence that like people have already created mobile phones. Why would we go through landlines and stuff? So the question to simplify is, when we have all that, we have the data, we have the intelligence that is here in the people. So what is it that we lack for the bridge to be, for the gap to be bridged? Sorry.
I mean, I mentioned Rwanda, yeah, and again, that collective vision of a country, and we need to focus. We need to be much more focused. We have amazing resources, and most importantly, our human resource, right? That needs to be developed. We're still lacking in terms of, I mean, we hear all the stories with all the various examinations and how we're not doing so well. So, and I believe that government is really putting a lot into education now, so that's the right strides. But I think collectively, we just need to be inspired as a people. I think platforms like yourself, what you're doing now, this is also very critical. We need to start seeing more of us winning. Yeah, we need to be inspired. And I think in Sierra Leone for far too long, and we can use this across the continent, we said, when your yams are white, cover them. And that's not an inspirational culture. Because if all of a sudden you don't know that other people can achieve and other people can be successful by doing A, B, C, D, then you're also not going to be inspired. And you know, America, for me, it was the biggest shift, right? Because I was there and I saw how people made it. And not you know, it wasn't like they made it because they woke up overnight or they prayed all the time. Prayer helps, but they did it by being diligent, yeah, by waking up and having a goal and focusing on that goal and doing what it needs to, be done to achieve goals, right? So we need a culture that inspires so that our young people can be aspirational, yeah.
Great. The culture is what's needed, and I'm sure actors like you guys are going to help to have that culture be spread among our youth and in the grassroots especially. Because as you said, platforms like these were created for us as Africans to know that we can have role models amongst ourselves. Because most of the times, people always say, you know what, they had proper background, they had support, and that's the reason why I even added that to your biography, for people to know that it's not because the person who's now being seen as the Masada, the woman behind the Masada, like, because we see her now successful, this is who she has always been. So she has struggled like all of us, and then she didn't use that as an excuse. So it's really great to mention the fact that it needs to be a culture of go-getters, of people who will not take a no as an answer and who will try to challenge the status quo that we are in. Okay. So, Edmund, would you like to add something in terms of the how we can help those young people in the country?
I think so closing the knowledge gap or the technology gap. Like I mentioned before, the incentives from government to encourage private sector to take part, but then still the responsibility of government to play their role. I know that we live in a world where knowledge, no one has a monopoly on knowledge anymore. Just like we mentioned that Google puts the entire database of all human knowledge throughout all mankind. It's in your hand, it's in your phone. So in terms of wanting to close the gap, it's again back to a matter of attitude, it's again back to a matter of making decisions to do that. one thing that a lot of us don't realize is that Africa is very unique in having the right enabling environments for technology to grow. You look at technologies like M-Pesa in Kenya, because we have very acute problems, our governments are more open to saying, okay, come with your solution and do something. So there was a payments issue in Kenya. Mobile money was not being implemented in the US and the UK and all those other places. But because the problem was so acute, they said, okay, let's develop this mobile money wallet. And now there's more mobile money penetration in Africa. So we innovated. We actually were ahead of the curve with mobile money. Another example is Zipline, who we're hearing so much about in Rwanda doing blood deliveries with drones. That's an American company that was not allowed to fly drones in America. So they had to go all the way to Africa to have an opportunity to innovate. So what you have to realize is that you live in a society and in a community where if you come up with a solution, if it's good, if it actually solves a problem, it's very likely that you'll be able to implement that and go ahead and do it. So the enabling environment is there. The access to knowledge is in your phone. There are free courses from MIT online, free courses from Harvard. Sometimes when we're doing our work with our drones and we get stuck, we go to YouTube and we watch a video and then we figure out what we need to do and we go do it. So in terms of PhD level research around technology, no, that's not where Africa is, and we have that gap to close, and that's really left to government and educational institutions to have more money to invest in the type of labs and the type of resources you need to do that. But in terms of can you create a problem, a solution that solves a problem in your community with technology, and can you be ahead of the curve in that specific area, you definitely can. So it's up to us. And again, go on, like if you know what area or what thing you have a passion about, go online and see what opportunities you have to learn more or to get into an accelerator or to get into some sort of workshop that will teach you the skills that you need to excel.
Great. So the saying is true that wherever there is constraint and difficulty, there lies opportunity. And that's what's happening in our African countries. We have so many challenges, but then there comes the opportunities that we have to solve those problems that we are facing. Thank you for that. I'll give the floor back to Esther for a short break. We will visit our second stand.
Hello, good afternoon again. We have over here, we have Angie's shop. She will introduce herself and also advertising.
Hello everybody, my name is Angel. I stay at number 2 Ravish. I have some staff here, Cinti, for some fats, and Goya. For more information, please contact me on 080-240-706. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angie. Back to you, Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Esther, and thank you, Angie Shop, for this great product. So I would like us now to close the discussion before we go to the question and answer session by asking both of you as private sector actors, what do you think are the market-driven solutions that we can offer to those young people out there for us to be sure that we can, let's say, be able to have more Aminata Doumbiyas and Edmund Nondies in the future? So what are the market-driven solutions based on the problems we know we have? So how can we give to those youth what it takes for us to have more Aminata Doumbiyas and Edmund Nondies?
Obviously, if you're in school, stay in school, be diligent about your studies. And I think with the private sector, there's still a lot of opportunities for linkages such as internship programs where young people can have an opportunity for 3 months, maybe even more, to understudy and see how it's done, right? So it's one thing to have, the theoretical experience, but it's also much more meaningful if you're able to have practical experience. So I think the private sector, I don't know if it's through the Chamber of Commerce, but for myself, I've mentored several students. I think there's the business school is actually running a mentorship program. So however you can, get either through a mentorship program or going as an intern to a company. That's probably the most practical experience that you can get.
Okay. So is it like internship or volunteering in organizations, but making sure that you have hands-on, not only the theory, but trying to make sure that you have the experience that is required.
I think in terms of market-driven, again, I would reference Mr. Stevens and Innovations Access and Sensi Hub. So they're doing a lot of great work. And then to look at what they call the value chain of different companies and see if you can plug yourself into that value chain at some point. So things like running a mobile kiosk that could also provide energy at the same time, also sell. So it's not high tech, it's not high level, but it gives you an introduction to managing finances, managing your own time, and owning some sort of small mercantile, some sort of small business. I also think that as time goes on, what they call the outsourcing economy or the sharing economy will also start playing a role a lot in Africa. I know that for us, over time, our plan is to move away from having employees that fly the drones to being completely focused on the data and data processing and insights, and outsourcing our data collection to practitioners who can go out there and do it for us. So kind of positioning yourself so that a corporate, a company would be able to use your services. Another area would be content creation. So content creation in terms of companies' social media or companies' information that they may want on their clients, if there's some way that you can plug into the value chain there. So just understanding the opportunities, or you also decide that I can solve a problem for this company, and see if you can pitch it to them in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I do know that you were very right when you mentioned innovation access with the Freetown Pitch Night that we have. You mentioned also pitching. So the youth have opportunities that are out there and that can help them be exposed to ideas, but at the same time try to, let's say, bring their ideas closer to possible donors and possible investors. So the market is open, but also like what I have learned from these two great entrepreneurs is that we need to position ourselves in a way that will help us be marketable and be competitive by equipping ourselves with what it takes in terms of skills, but at the same time with practicality and the experience it takes, not only the theory. You would like to add something? No? Okay. So that's great. That was it for our conversations, but we would like to hear from the audience. Esther, would you like please to take some questions from the audience for the speakers?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My question here, most often we are focusing on technology. We have our speaker here today have begun to see how they can spread the business or bringing young people on board, especially for our students at the junior secondary school, if not the primary school. Because most often we talk about what technology, the technology in the theoretical aspect, or the practical aspect is not there. So if we talk about something in the theoretical aspect without embarking on the practical aspect, I think it would serve as an impediment for the individual to grasp the technology better. So I want to have a video to see how you can help those people for them to embark on the practical aspect.
As individuals.
Yeah, so clear.
Okay, second question, please.
Good afternoon. And, I want to ask these questions. If we, Africa, if we are ready for the fourth industrial revolution,
If we're ready
for the fourth industrial revolution, as you mentioned, you see the continent as the ultimate leap forward economy. That you see that technology, there's an opportunity that technology can provide. Whilst others see it as there's a bridge, that inequality and the rate of unemployment is relatively high. So, if these are some of the problems, then it's hard to see how Africa will benefit. So I'll advise anyone here in this room to be kind to robots because you don't know what you're going to happen in the future.
Sorry, you said you advise everyone in this room to
Be kind to robots.
oh,
Because they know
kind to
what-
robots. Okay.
And I have another question. It's innovation, it's something that is new. If something is not innovation, if innovation can always be something new.
Good afternoon to you all. Kamal Ramanes is my name. I would like to use this opportunity to thank Madam Aminata for organizing this wonderful event, of which it stands to inspire young people in the area of technology and innovation. And my question here is that, Madam Aminata, you spoke about innovation. Many times I do say people in our community who are very good in innovative ideas, but when it comes in the area of what practicalize it to put it into practical act, there comes a problem. So, Madam Aminata, what can you say about those people who are having good ideas, but they are always finding it very difficult to put it into a practical act? Thank you very much.
Any maybe?
My question is here again to panelists. How do we unleash the potential of young entrepreneurs in technology in the rural areas of Sierra Leone? Because all the concentration has been in Freetown. We have great innovators in the rural areas who did not have the platform to showcase their innovations. Like one time we were in Kenema for the Youth Summit, and we have to meet a boy who is good in innovation, but he does not have the platform to showcase his innovation. So how can he reach to those people in the rural areas? Thank you.
So our guests will answer these 4 questions before we see if we can have the opportunity of allowing more people to ask more questions. Yeah, so can we start?
We'll start with you this time.
I'll start by answering the last question, actually. Yeah, you do want to encourage people in all parts of the country to innovate and have opportunities. And at the same time, markets and opportunity coalesce a lot. And that means they all gather in one place. So Facebook, for example, started in Massachusetts. When he was ready to so he innovated in Massachusetts. When he was ready to set up Facebook as a company and roll out, he had to go to Silicon Valley because that's where the money is. That's where other architecture that is needed for that business to thrive was. So again, no one's going to give anyone anything. If there's a rural innovator, if they want access to markets, if they want access to teaching and opportunities, if they want access to finance and investment, they'll just have to come to Freetown. You definitely can innovate outside of Freetown, and you should try and solve problems for outside of Freetown. But in any country in the world, if you need access to markets and finance, there are places where those markets and finance sit, especially with finance. And as we all know, an idea is only as good as the amount of resources it has to push it. So to say, I want to sit in Pujon and innovate, and I want to be able to talk to an investor, I want the investor in Freetown to leave Freetown and drive to Pujon for me to pitch to him or her. It's not how it's going to work. But definitely people should innovate wherever they are, but also understand the realities of the market that they're innovating in, and understand if I want X, I need what they need to do, and sometimes that is going to another city and seeking it. Innovation doesn't have to be new for it to be considered innovation. So again, with Facebook, before Facebook being a social network, there was MySpace, there was High5, there was multiple social. In fact, I think Facebook was the 14th kind of large brand social network, and yet it ended up outliving and out-innovating all the other ones. So it was an existing technology, it was an existing platform. However, they implemented it in a very different way to the people who have come before them. So, as much as possible, if you can have an original idea that no one else is doing, great. At the same time, if you see a gap in the market where there's an existing business and technology model that you know you can improve on and do it much better than anyone else, then that's fine as well. So yes, innovation can be new, but also it can be something that exists that you're just bringing your own. And then what have we done to help young people get access? I think in the slideshow they showed some members of our company with school kids. So we had an open day where we took our drones, we let the kids play with it, we let them fly the drones, we explained the different aspects of our work and what we do. We're working with some partners in developing a training program for people who are interested in becoming professional drone pilots. And we're also working on a platform to start fabricating drones ourselves in Sierra Leone. So I think in terms of our plans moving forward, there are several initiatives that we're already a part of and we're already doing, and there are several initiatives that medium and long term will be in place to give more access to people like you guys.
Yeah. So your first question was the practical experience. You're now going through the theory of learning. And I think early on we mentioned linking with the right private sector companies where you can get an internship. I think that's the quickest and most effective way to get the practical experience, right? And sometimes you'll be lucky that those internships will be paid as well. But the most valuable thing that you get from it is practicalizing your craft and understanding how that works. So finding companies that are within the realm of your studies and applying for an internship. So you asked what is innovation. I actually just to show you that Google can do the world's just at our fingertips. I'm just going to add the definition here. So innovation is the action or process of innovating, right? So innovation is crucial to the continuing success of any organization. And it's a new method, idea, product, etc., and the plural, obviously, innovations. So I use this to say that Apple is actually one of the most innovative companies, because every single, maybe sometimes 3 months, 6 months, they come up with a new phone. So I've had this phone, but it's now old, it's outdated, because every single, at least 2 times a year, they're coming up with a new product. And even when you have your old phone, you have to now change to the new, internal system, the iOS. You have to upgrade, right? So innovation is a process of adding and making things new and advancing. It's not necessarily a new thing, right? Because mobile telephony has been there forever. But they're just adding different features and adding, different method of doing things. So that, hopefully that answers your innovation question. And then the other question on having good ideas but finding it difficult to practicalize them. Like, we all have ideas. So the difference between an idea and, implementing that idea is implementing that idea. So if it's fear that's holding you back from realizing that idea, you have to figure out how to minimize that. Be courageous, right? So I guess the key difference then between an idea and having it practicalized or implemented is courage and the guts to believe in yourself and know that your idea can actually make a difference, right? So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Can I add one more thing? So around kind of feeling held back in implementing something, again, it comes back to you doing it yourself. My first ever company, I started when I was in second year in college. It was a graphic design and website development business. I started that company, but a year before I started that company, I didn't know anything about graphic design and website development. I had a laptop because I needed a laptop to do my schoolwork, my college work. I managed to get a free version of a graphic design and website software. And then within that free version, they then had, under the help section, tutorials on how to use the software. Just going through those tutorials, learning, and then using my laptop that was supposed to be like for college, then I was like, okay, now I can do graphic design and make websites. Did a couple of those, got some money from that, put that money back into buying a better laptop to do that. Graduated from college, went to work for someone else for a while, got the money from being an employee, put it into a business. Ran that business for 2 years, that business failed. Went to work for someone else for 2 years. Took that money and put it into this business. So just understanding that no one is going to do it for you.
Right.
Get yourself to a position where you can at least do something where someone can have you as an employee and pay you. And I also tell my employees, like, I have a conversation with them where I'm like, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Because there's a high likelihood that it's not being in my company for the next 5 to 10 years. So plan what your exit is going to be, save money up. If you ever need like help like developing a pitch deck or developing something where you want to go on and do your own thing, then I'm all for supporting you to do that. So in any country you're in, you barely ever have someone who's just like, hey, you have a great idea ahead. Like, even when they want to give you money, they're like, okay, what have you done before?
Right.
So we raised investment this year, but it was like after 2 years of operating. Because any investor is like, what's your track record? So if you have an idea, find some way, do some odd job that gives you the money so you can start.
I just want to add to that 2 things. So don't be afraid to fail. Failure is part of the process, right? So yeah, just be courageous, don't be afraid to fail. And the second thing is, like you mentioned, if you have an idea, believe in yourself, be the first to invest in that idea. This our waste to energy pilot. We had to self-fund. Okay, the business case for Masada, we won last year in 2018 at the African Development Bank. We pitched at the West Africa Clean Climate Energy Facility over 250 clean climate projects, and our project was the winner. Okay, but we didn't. All we got was technical assistance. We couldn't raise money. They didn't give us money. We had to now self-fund our pilot, which will be at the Aberdeen Women's Center, in hopes that when that pilot is running for at least 3 to 6 months, you have your findings. You can now go back to the investors that had, said, okay, this is a good project, you've won, but we wanted to see that you too have a vested interest, that you believe in your project. So we had to self-fund it.
Great. I think we have so much to work on, because the small nuggets that we have collected from the answers are going to help most of us, especially those who had the, let's say, the desire to have certain issues cleared. They can act on those and see the results. I am very, very happy that most of the things that I wanted to add to their own answers, they added. And it has to do with when you mentioned idea to practicality. The answer was the fear. Most of the time the person is fearing failure. While failure is your best friend, because as he mentioned his own journey, you fail and you learn along the process. And that's what makes you who you become. So we need ourselves to believe in our ideas, but to be our first investors. What any entrepreneur is going to tell you is that they started by funding themselves, funding their ideas. from what they saved along the line, but also maybe from what friends and family has given them, but not from loans or grants. So that's what we need to have in the back of our mind. So we heard stories of organizations that run for 2 years, for a year without investment. The only investment they had was their own pocket money, their own savings from other works they have been doing. And you know, I think the closest example to us now is this Ignition Hour. Of course, as I mentioned, we are just getting started. We are a baby, we are a year old. But for a whole year, we have been funding ourselves. Okay? Because to me, it was like, who will believe to this cheap idea? Who will believe in this cheap idea? Nobody else. I have to believe in it, and I have to put my money in it and showcase what this idea is all about and what impact it can have on the target group that we have. Okay? So that's really the reality of entrepreneurship. You have your idea, invest in it, give it time and energy, and also give it the money you have. So I always love saying, let's stop buying the human hair for women and start investing in your ideas. But you want somebody else to stop buying human hair for their kids and invest it in your own business. You need to start yourself. That's the reality.
And what about the men? Do they buy human hair?
For the
girl, right?
But they have also very expensive stuff that they're so attached to, like big TV sets and sound systems and I don't know what. So, but then you need to cut costs somewhere for you to invest in what you believe in. We don't need people who believe in cheap stuff like nice shoes and nice clothing. Of course, it also rises. But what are the priorities of the time? So let's give a very warm round of applause to our great speakers today. Thank you so much, Edmund. Thank you, Aminata, for coming here today. I know you guys are very, very busy, but you wanted to be here with us to inspire the younger generation, and that's something great. Okay, so thank you so much, and see you next month.